Today what we'll do is we'll discuss about IP addressing. Okay, so I want to know the basic difference between, first of all, public IP and private IP. Okay, Mala or Madhuri, any idea about public and private?
Uh, Using public IP, we can communicate within a network only, and in public IP, we can communicate over the outside the network.
So public IP is nothing but like it's publicly available. You can access the system, or you can access that IP via internet, or it's open to all. Public means it's open to all. Private is it's restricted to limited ports or limited systems, specifically only to that network area.
Specifically only to the network area. Fine. Okay, and your thoughts? Any other thoughts from anyone? Public and private IP.
So mostly like it won't let you access via internet. So,
Okay, let's imagine, take a small example. Everybody has home internet, right? Okay, and you have a Wi-Fi router and you connected to internet, right? So from Wi-Fi router, you you got one cable. Imagine you have one desktop. Can you be on mute, please? There's some background noise. A desktop and laptop. Okay. You have these many devices at your home. Okay, now tell me where you will use public IP and where you will use private IP at your home. Anyone, right?
usually for desktops and laptops, within home, you'll access all these public IPs like desktop or laptop and all. But
Imagine,
for internet and all, like you'll be using
sorry,
for desktop and laptop, it will be a private IP.
private. Okay,
Yeah.
and
And
for
for the internet, yeah,
mobile.
yeah, mobile also.
Okay, and for TV.
Yeah, those are all private IPs because you are connected to a particular Wi-Fi where
Yeah.
your internet is getting access.
Okay.
So, but your internet access will be public, or it might be a vice versa. I believe. Sure, but
Right. Okay. See, in this setup, you have some set of private IPs and you must have one public IP. Otherwise, it won't work. One public IP, it will sit here. Okay. So imagine if I have all these devices at my home and I do have internet connection. If I want to find out my IP, okay, so I'll simply go, what is my IP? So this is my public IP address. Your public IP address. This is my public IP address. You understand? And what my laptop has got. This is my laptop, but what my Wi-Fi, what is my Wi-Fi router IP? So at my home, the IPs are something like this: 192.168, 1.1, and so on till 192, 168, 1.254. Right? So within this range, I have my desktop, laptop, mobile, TV, Alexa, whatever the device I have, they will connect and they will communicate within this range. And if they want to exchange some data in between, if they want to exchange some data in between, they can communicate because over the same network. But if they want to access something from the internet, then they will route the traffic to Wi-Fi router. Wi-Fi router will send the data to internet. And if some data, if I want to fetch from internet, I must have some destination, right? So my destination is this. Once any data or any packet received from the internet till here, Wi-Fi router will route that to private network. This is public and this is public and this is private. Got it? This is for home setup simple home setup. But when we when we are talking about enterprises, okay, when we are talking about enterprises, imagine how they are managing it. Now I'm saying one desktop, one laptop, one mobile, one TV, and so on. So replace these names with 1,000 people who are sitting in the floor. Okay, you have one office where 1,000 people are working. Some of them have laptops and some of them have desktops, and few security cameras are there, and one more thing, or we call it as the swipe card machine, swipe cards, door swipe cards. They also have IP addresses, right? They also send the data to centralized system. So you have such a devices across the floor and they want to communicate with each other. Then how you will design it? Understand the query? Right? So if you have a floor, imagine you have two wings and four departments. Okay, now how you plan your IP addressing? Because any let's say you walk into the into the office in the morning and you simply turn on your laptop, automatically you connect it to the Wi-Fi, and you don't need to connect to the VPN. You straight away log into your Outlook on Skype. Okay, then how it is happening? Hmm? Right, there must be some sort of network setup that has to be in place within the floor to help employees to connect and manage their day-to-day stuff. So there, what kind of IP addressing you are using? When you go to office, connect your laptop, what is the IP you're getting? Anyone? No? No idea? Bala?
Yeah, it should be again private network, private
Pri-
IP.
private network only. I want to understand what kind of IP.
Right. It's a private IP.
Mm,
Uh, then they might have a set of reserved IPs, and from the private IPs, again those will be distributed to public IPs within the system, within the floor.
Okay. So let's take an example, the same example in a different way. Mm, Working for ABC company, and they have a they have one data center and three offices or two offices. Okay, so DC, and okay, imagine 500 people working here, around 1500 people working here, and you have around 1000 devices here. Now your aim is to assign the IP address for these 1000 devices, 1500 people, 500 people. What you will do? Are you going to assign the public IP or a private IP? First of all, public or private? Which IPs we assign? Obviously, private IPs. Okay. Then my question is, why can't you assign public IPs to everyone? Hmm? Any reason?
Security concerns, yes, it can be accessed by anyone if the IP address is available.
Okay. So the main problem is you cannot assign individual public IPs to individuals across the globe. Okay, because the planet IPs will exhaust if you start assigning the public IP to each and every device. So let's say you have Alexa, you have TV, you have mobile, and you have laptop. So all these devices, for each device, if you start assigning the public IP, you will exhaust with the public IPs. So we before we start assigning the IP addresses to this scenario, let's understand what we have basically. As I said, okay. So basically, IP addresses, how it looks like. There are, imagine there are two types of IP addresses, IPv4 and IPv6. What is IPv4? How it looks like? It looks like this. Sorry, it starts with and ends with. What about IPv6? What about IPv6? This is my v6 address. This is my v6 address. Okay, and this is my v4 address. You look at two IP addresses on my machine. So basically this is 32-bit and this is 128-bit IP address. That is how when they designed it. Whoever designed this, they designed in 32-bit format, and they thought that if the people start using these IP addresses, they'll exhaust by 2000s. Early 2000s, they must exhaust. But considering this, they developed 128-bit IP addressing called IPv6. But since last 10 years I'm working, I never seen customers using IPv6 in their production environment or any other environment. Okay, still we are using the IPv4 only. Okay, so your AWS and Azure or GCP or your home or your office supports both. But I haven't seen customers using IPv6. So rolled out from our discussion. So let's concentrate on IPv4. IPv4, as I said, starts from here, ends here. Fine. But they have further divided into some classes. Class A, sorry, class A, class B, class C, class D, and class E. If we IP address classes, class A, B, C, D, E. Okay, if we look at D, reserved for multi-cache groups. E, reserved for future usage or research and development purpose. Means these two are rolled out again. Whoever has developed, he hasn't give the access to use these ranges. So across the globe, people have to use IP addresses within this range only. Now let's understand what is that range and from where it starts and where it ends. Class A basically starts at 2 126.255.255.255, right? And class B starts anyway 0 and 255 we cannot use it, but just want to mention that's the range. And class C this is class C range. Hmm? Now I have my laptop running on this IP range. Okay, can you look at and tell me in which class it is running?
Class C.
Let's copy this. Okay, now let me do some get me public IPs. Ping. If you look at the IP, What is the difference between these two? Understand? If I say godaddy.com, I'm getting a response from this IP. Means godaddy.com is using this IP. This website is running on host where the IP is assigned. The IP is this. So what is the difference between these two? So this is public
Public
IP.
IP,
This is
private IP.
private. Means class C has both public and private. Similarly, class B also has the same public and private. Class A also has same public and private. So how you, how you will identify? So what they did, let's say they have created one private range 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255. This is the private range within class A. If you look at, fine, right? So rest one dot public range. What is the public range? 1.0.0.0 to 9.255, 255, 255 and 11 dot. So they further divided into public and private like this. Clear? When it comes to class B, when it comes to class B, what they did, class B also has a private range 172.16.0.0 to 172.31.255.255. Let me check. Yes. Okay. This is class B, private, and when it comes to public, rest all public. One 172.15 dot and 172.32.0.0 191. This is the public range. Okay, when it comes to class C, what is the private range? Private range is very simple, 192.168.0.02 192.168.255.255. That is the private range. And what is the public range? 192.0.0.0 to 192.167 and to 169.0.0. This is the public range. This way they divided all the IPs into public and private. So if you look at anything which is running on 192.168 means it's a private. So basically this you will use it for home or home purpose, I can say. This range you will see home purpose. Any example for this? Any example? Your mobile. If you enable the mobile tethering or Wi-Fi tethering, automatically the device which is connected to your mobile to use your internet is also functions under class C. Okay, and where you'll use small and medium enterprises, you'll use private IP address, and then large enterprises you'll use class A. So wherever you go and log in your organizations, most of the time you'll see the IP addresses starts with 10 dot series for your office. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Bala, able to?
Yeah. Actually, I have to mute myself. There is a
Yeah,
background noise. Sorry about it.
yeah, no problem. So I want to understand, or I want to find out some examples where I'll see some of these classes they are using or public IPs which are using or hosted on different classes. We already have class C, one example. Class A, 176.32, right? Within this range, within this public range, 172.32, 103, right? Public, right? Class B. It's also running on class B. Running on class A, 98, right? So you take anything, any global website, it must run with one of these ranges IP address. Either class A, class B, class C that belongs to public, you must see they get resolved. Clear on this? I don't want to spend much time on this theory IP address concepts, but let's move on to scenario. What the scenario what we have built here?
Srinivas, have you cleared the IP address page?
No,
Can you send that thing in my
I'll,
mail?
I'll save it in your Google Drive.
Thank you.
Okay, so here in this scenario, I said ABC company and it's a small setup. You have one DC and two offices. Now tell me which IP address you will adopt here. Which one you can use it? Can I use this one? Class B, because of the medium enterprise. So what I will do is I will use class B here, private. So 172.16.0.0 to 172.20.0.0 20.255.255. I'll dedicate to data center. Possible? And sorry, 172.25.0.0 /16 I'll give, or other words 172. 25.0.0 to 172.25.255.255. Same thing. Both are same. The notation difference. 172.26.0.0/16 or same thing. This is the IP range I will adopt, because the reason is I want to connect these three offices together via some firewalls like this. Why you want to connect all of these? Because you people sit here want to access these devices over the private network, and you want to talk to these people over the private network, and these people want to access the devices over the private network and talk to you guys over the private network. So to establish private connectivity between your organization or between your locations, I need to configure VPN, you call it as. Okay, so this you call it as technically, I will do all these things within AWS as well. Site to site VPN. This is also one more site to site VPN. This is also one more site to site VPN. So once you establish this type of connectivity between your offices, now you are sitting here somewhere, your laptop, you have one IP. Laptop has got one IP, 172.26.92.69 is your laptop IP address. Okay, now you want to talk to some device 172.19.221.9. This is some device. From here you want to talk to this device. Can someone explain how that packet travels? First of all, identify where this IP is sitting or where you have allocated that range. Hmm? Where you have allocated,
Data center.
right? So this belongs to one device here. Means from your laptop you're trying to connect to one of the device over here. So how the packet will travel? So from your office or from your laptop, it first goes to the nearest switch or gateway, and this gateway will hand over the packet to the firewall or the VPN device, and the VPN device will add the secure key and put it on tunnel. Okay, if this packet is put it on tunnel, it directly hits here. Then this VPN will receive it, and it has another gateway in the backend, and this will broadcast to the respective destination within this room. Somewhere in the corner in the rack you have your device, and it will receive the packet. Okay, we'll see all these things later on. In VMware you can clearly test it. Okay, now this is not the VMware class, so let's move on to Azure, sorry, AWS. how you want to use these IP addresses in AWS. Right? I said this is a, let's take the same scenario. Now the plan is, same ABC company has decided to shut down this, and they want to go to AWS. Okay, now can you tell me what needs to be done? Around 1000 devices I have in the data center. Hmm? Any thoughts? First of all, you need to identify the location. What is the location here? Let's say North Virginia or Ohio, whatever. North Virginia. So do we have AWS presence in North Virginia? Yes, we have.
Yes.
So we have presence in North Virginia AWS. So I decided to use which region I'm using. North Virginia. Region is North Virginia. Now imagine North Virginia is for global public. This AWS data center is for global public. You are not alone, or you are not the premium customer, or you are not alone customer who is using the services. You have millions of customers who has deployed their servers, who has deployed their services, and who has deployed their applications inside the AWS region or AWS data center, I'll say. So how you will plan for your 1000 servers within this? Means ultimately the aim is you want to shut down all the 1000 devices here, and you want to move everything to AWS. So if you want to place it here, you need to reserve something, or you need to procure something, or you need to create some boundary where you can place your devices, because I'll say there are more than million customers, or right, who are using the same region. Okay, so now I have a portal access, you have a portal access, and everybody has a portal access. So I can log in and deploy my server, and you can log in and deploy your server, and Madhuri can log in and deploy their server, and Bala can log in and deploy another server. So how that is segregated and how that is functioning, that is what I want to understand. Bala, clear? Because you can log in and deploy your own machine, even I can log in and deploy my machine.
Yeah.
Anyone can log in and deploy and start deploying their services. Then how that can be logically separated within the same building? Or I said this is not a single building, the region is collection of 6 buildings. 6 buildings, each building you technically call it as availability zones, right? You call it as availability zones, and consolidatedly you call it as a region. Okay, but in layman I'll call it as a data center. So you have a nearest data center, AWS data center in North Virginia, and you are now adapted to use this. So part of this you have already created an account. Now your plan is to create a boundary where you can move your devices to AWS. So how that boundary can be created? What is that boundary? Right? So in AWS, once you log in or once you create an account, if you want to deploy something, you need to define your logical boundary where you are going to deploy your devices. Okay, so that logical boundary you call it as AWS VPC. Okay, what is VPC? Let's see what this is. AWS VPC is a commercial cloud computing service that provides users a virtual private cloud by provisioning a logically isolated section of AWS services, IPsec based virtual network. Means, so take this as the whole region, and I said we have around 6 buildings, right? Okay, you have around 6 buildings. So me as a customer, if I log in, so what I need to do, I need to create one logical boundary, the logical boundary which you call it as VPC. So what is VPC? VPC is a simple logical boundary that you need to define. Okay, let's say VPC, and let me log into the portal quickly. Okay, so this is the region, and then if I go to VPC, if you go to VPC, I want to create a subnet, create 1A, right? So this is 1B, and so on, 1F, right? Six zones. So if you create a VPC, VPC is a logical boundary. It's spread across all the zones, and you need to supply your IP boundary for this. So now, which IP address you can use it here? Anyone? Anyone? Which IP address we should use it here? Private or public? Hmm? Madhavi, Bala? Yes, everyone is in mute.
Private IPs.
Which private IP address we should use? Okay, so in this case, this supports all. It supports class A, you can give like this, or it supports class B, supports class C as well, whatever. However you want to manage it, you can give the IP address. Okay, it supports all the three. So it is up to you which IP address you want to adopt for your company. Now, in our previous example, what is the IP address we adopted? Class B,
That,
right?
yeah, that was a medium class.
Okay, so for this, I need to decide class B range. But before I decide the class B range, I have to relook at the things. If I said relook at the things means how many IPs I have, these many IPs. And how many I have already used, 16 to 20 and 25, 26 gone. So anything which is unassigned, 21 is not used, 21, 22, 23, 24. I'm talking about the second digit. Okay, if you are confused, second digit. 16 to 20 gone, 25 is gone, 26 is gone. Okay, so what is this class B range? 16 to 31. 16 to 20, 25, 26 is gone. So 21 to 24 I can use it here, right? Because it is not used anywhere. So go back. So I'll say out of this, I want to use, this is my range, 172.21.0.0/16. Means I can place devices inside this logical boundary. So now if I want to create a VM, I can create a VM anywhere. Anywhere I can create. But the IP range is within that 21. It will not go beyond that 21 bound. Okay. Now there is a company which they want to use class A. Yes, you can still do the same. You can create one more logical boundary and you can assign the range. It works. Okay, so imagine both the VPCs belongs to one customer. So if I have one device here and if I have one device here, will these two communicate with each other? Hmm? Hello, I said both the VPCs belongs to one customer only, and they have two divisions. They created two VPCs and they placed devices in two different VPCs. Will these two devices communicate with each other or not?
Yes, they communicate with each other.
Bala, Madhavi, it's gone. Fine. So these two devices will not communicate with each other by default, even though the, if I said device means it might be a server or it might be a application. Okay, so I have one server here, another server here. If I place these two servers in two different VPCs within the same region, still they don't talk to each other. Clear? Because they are logically separated. You need to establish peering, or you need to establish some sort of connectivity between both of them in order to establish the network connectivity. But if I have a device here and I have a device here, these two can talk to. By default, they will talk to each other. Okay, so clear. What I'll do is I'll stop here. If you have any questions, you can ask me, and tomorrow we'll start discussing about VPC more detail. Any questions?
No.
Madhavi, you there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any questions? Able to understand or still
Yes,
confused? Or you need to watch the video once again? What?
yes, sir. I need to watch it once again, sir. Please share with me.
Sure. Okay. I'll upload all the videos today and I'll share with you
Okay.
all.
Okay.
Right? And let me stop here. We'll catch up tomorrow and we'll start discussing about VPC in more detail, and we'll try to put those scenarios in place and start practicing the things from tomorrow. Clear? Let me stop here.